Hello, everybody. It is very nice to say hello to all of you after some time. As you see, ROCKIT Talks are back, and today by my side I have Jonė Vaitulevičiūtė. Hi, Jonė.
Hi.
Jonė is partner of startup Wise Guys and managing director of the upcoming Fintech for Acceleration program. We ROCKIT are super happy to partner with the program for the second time. So I want to ask Jonė, are you also so happy as we are?
I'm as happy as I think when we graduated the first program and we said the next will be even better. So I think it's already much better because we are planning to be here in ROCKIT actually this time. So we are already excited.
Yeah. Woohoo! Okay, Jonė, could you tell us all a little bit about yourself, how your journey with startup Wise Guys started, and what do you exactly do there?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people ask me, and I try to explain it in the easiest manner so my family can understand. My journey started, I think, a while ago when I worked in management consultancy. So I spent like 7 years working with deep tech companies, attracting them funding, working on their pitch decks, and one of our management consultancy partners was also involved in investing in Startup Wise Guys, is one of the co-founders actually of Startup Wise Guys. So myself and also my colleagues, Dima and Andra, that are here in Lithuania, we have started mentoring the startups, I think, since 2015, 2016, somewhere around that time. And this is how we actually became very much engaged, and we loved their red color, and I'm completely not in tone with like what we should be wearing, so apologies for that. I should be wearing all red and you would recognize it for sure. But yeah, then a couple of years ago we spotted the opportunity to raise a fund for acceleration and support startups here in Lithuania, so we decided to go ahead along with Startup Wise Guys, and this is how we have launched the Acceleration Fund in Lithuania 1.5 years ago. And what I do specifically, so yes, that's very, very difficult question. So my job is to actually, make sure the fund is managed well, but definitely to scout for the best opportunities, to invest in them, help them grow, and then, make sure that the fund is returned and, keep on raising other funds.
Okay, but if we would leave Startup Wise Guys a little bit aside, I will come back to it, and we would look to the acceleration program as itself, what it is, how exactly it works and looks like.
Yeah, so I think the acceleration program is meant for startups to kind of give the startup mindset, meaning that you test fast, you pivot fast, you start sales fast, you fail fast, or you break it very fast. So this is the program where I think a lot of people associate it with early stage or very young founders, but this is not the case. I think quite a few of our accelerator graduates that are mature companies, are mature founders, but this is for you to give the environment where you can really make things very quickly, not to waste anyone's time. I think this is the most important. So.
And the tech and innovation world is changing very quickly, especially now. Are accelerators changing also? And do you see any dominant trends right now in the accelerators?
Yeah, I think, there was one that's, I think, going on for a few years, especially with Y Combinator becoming more of a kind of online accelerator. So meaning that there aren't too many accelerators like maybe Wise Guys or also Techstars that would do acceleration program hands-on and physically in one place, which we think brings so much more value, because with the times as they are now, we moved online and we see that it's not the same value as we can bring when we are all together and founders are learning from other founders. This is, I think you understand perfectly well, because you're building the community, and this is what we're building as well. So on one hand, yes, accelerators changed a lot. I think a lot of them went into this model where they just consult on one-on-one basis rather than do the program, because it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong. I think that now what I can see that there is an increased interest from corporates into accelerators. What do you think are the main reasons corporations are investing in those programs, and what such participation can bring to the startups?
Mm-hmm. So I can be maybe brutally honest. I don't know if the corporates are listening or not. Of course, at the beginning, I think it was kind of one of the goals to support the ecosystem. It brings a lot of like good publicity. So it's good to be next to like tech and innovation. So I think 5 years ago or so, we saw this trend that the first corporates started moving that way. But now they realize that they can actually take something. So they can actually implement some startups as their products, or actually improve the operations within the company. So I think we like what we see, that it's becoming better. So as I said, like honestly, at the beginning, everyone said like it's difficult to work with corporates, like to bring them to startups, because the expectations are usually very different from like what we want. We want the companies to sell to corporates. That's very, very indirect. But on the other hand, corporates expect something else. But now we're all moving to the same direction. I think the last program showed that. What we like to see is actually the startups really like it. They really see a lot of value, especially if we can bring them a number of those corporates, a number of other companies that they could test with, talk with the management, so get a lot of valuable feedback.
Yeah, they're great. And does the startup Wise Guys Accelerator differ somehow from other accelerators? You mentioned Techstars and there was other online ones. How are you different?
The color is red. No, but honestly, yes, I think we are very different, because when we talk with startups, most of them know, you're like, yes, you're Wise Guys, but your program is so intense. So this is how we're different. And I haven't participated in Techstars myself, so I cannot say the intensity level there, but comparing to other accelerators, yes, we're different, that we will always want to bring you over here to the place where we are. We are very international, so we care about kind of building the community that does not consist, like it's not focused solely on one city or on one country. And most importantly, we are actually trying to adjust to startup needs, and we're coming up with our own model, so making it a little bit hybrid. And this is like the big news that we will be also like announcing, but for those startups that are sitting behind the wall of the studio, and also for those who are listening, one thing that you should know is that we heard that the program is too intense, and we are going with a model where we will be giving a couple of more intensive weeks over here at ROCKIT, physically coaching and meeting with mentors, if the situation allows us for. And then we give a few weeks off where you can actually like work much more on your business, catch up with what you have learned. So we call it the hybrid model. And we think that this is something that will be a completely unique model of Startup Wise Guys that then will later be copied by other accelerators.
So you a little bit mentioned already that how from the very beginning, how Startup Wise Guys model changed.
Yeah, so I think the accelerator model is, if we look like at the typical accelerator models, usually this called spray and pray. So where you invest in a lot of startups and then you're like, okay, I cannot take care of the whole portfolio, so I just hope that something will actually make it. And at the beginning, it was very standard. So Wise Guys, maybe I will tell later more about like the history, but when we started in 2012, the ticket would be 20,000 euros plus the program. Completely like set valuation, almost no discussion, no negotiations around it. What we have now, we are becoming much more flexible, and we have a better capacity to invest. So meaning that we look into the company's maturity, in the product's maturity, founders. We really like try to see how much money you need. So we want to give you space at least for like 9 months to work fully on your startups, to give you the runway at least of 9 months, that you don't have to think about survival, but actually about building the product, going out and selling. And then we have the capacity to make more investments into one company. So I think our fintechs from previous batch is a good example, like when we invested close to 500,000 in one company. This is, I think, mainly how we kind of changed over time. So we are still accelerating, we really believe in it, but we are next to the early stage VC fund, which helps a lot to as a value proposition for startups.
Okay, so everybody always are interested in numbers. Could you share some of them with us? For example, a number of startups, raised capital, number of exits, or something.
Yeah, so I think the key numbers are, well, we are now doing the 20th batch of acceleration. We are 8 years in let's say in activity as started Wise Guys. We have invested in over 185 companies, so that's quite a lot, and almost 80% of them are still working and growing. So it's not that as the usual percentage is 10%. So we have 80 because the acceleration program, it actually works. It actually makes you you kind of jump through some loopholes that you would usually, when you encounter yourself, you might fail. So I think these are important numbers. We have 3 exits, on average 50x. And we're looking for much more, of course. But when someone asks us, so like Jonė, Dima, so what are the exits from your fund? So we usually count 3 to 5 years. I think 3 is at least to the exit. So it might be a little bit too early to talk about much more. But of course, we will see more and more of them coming from the early batches that we have.
In which countries you're operating?
Operating in the Baltics, so Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, but we have founders from 42 countries. So yeah, so it's quite diverse, and we really focus a lot on Baltics, Nordics, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and then going a bit more to the east, Ukraine, Belarus, Armenia, Georgia. This is where we scout. But we really have very interesting nationalities and people coming also from US, from Australia, founders from Yemen, India. So we don't invest too much in scouting there. It has to make a lot of sense for us to have startups from those countries. So it means that they want to launch in the Baltics, they want to go to Europe. But yeah, this is how I think we make it really interesting for the local ones to interact.
Do you think accelerating in the Baltics are somehow different than in the other parts of the world?
It is difficult. It is different, maybe in a sense that you always immediately have to start thinking where you go next. So we never look into a startup as okay, how much you can make in Lithuania, how much you can make in the Baltics. This is good for your test phase, for kind of testing the product, building the product, doing the first few pilots. But then you always have to think, okay, so where do I go next? So the network is really important. So if I'm an accelerator in the Baltics, my value proposition to startup should be that I have a lot of connections in other countries, and I actually can push you to those countries. And if you are probably in Germany or France, you might be good just to be very localized.
And when you're investing in your startups, when the return is expected, could you share the usual success ratio of the startups?
So let's say the success ratio by the book is probably 1 out of 10, and that's not the unicorn. That's how many of them live, but that's by the book. As I said, we have around 80% success rate that still lives and grows and employs people, and this is very important for us. But as I said, we expect returns, and probably not returns like exits, in around 5 years from our fund that we invest from. But the returns is very much based on, let's say, the vehicle that you're investing from. So we say we have around 8 years, and this is also kind of our business as investors, is that now we invest, and then in a couple of years we will start divesting. So it means we will start looking for the exit opportunities as well. It means either attracting extra capital to the companies or finding a good acquisition opportunities.
So how does the process after the accelerator look like? How do you track and observe your startups?
We do track them a lot. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. So we actually feel that with the amount of startups we have, we really, for the year after accelerator, we work with them on kind of almost bi-weekly basis, with some bi-monthly basis, depending on the need. But then we are kind of brutally honest. So if you are really not performing very well, and you're very slow, and you're still at the same stage, we cannot invest that much time into you. And so we say you might be in the underperforming category, you are in the on-track category. We have this enormous database that on Airtable that I think a lot of you are aware. So I think even Airtable, when they saw our database about the portfolios, they were like, we're giving it for you for free because like this is the best database we've ever seen. And this is where we track their performance, we do the reviews and reportings. But of course, practically, we talk with companies, we call them, we meet with them. So with the kind of the best performance, and that's I would say the 30% of the portfolio, this takes a lot of our time. So we scout and we take care of the portfolio.
And now you're intensively preparing for the upcoming FinTech Batch 4, right? It's your 4th FinTech Focus program. Does those programs change from each other somehow? What have you learned from your previous FinTech programs? And what are your value proposition for the admitted companies in this program?
Yeah, so I think maybe there are two sides. So of course, if we say it's a fintech program, it has to have something fintech specific. So it's not only fintech startups. So the content is mainly built on fintech experts, on the banking sector as well. The partners that we bring, so we always cooperated with Swedbank, and we cooperated with Swedbank for all programs in a row and as a partner. What changes actually and what we loved about it is that we can actually have many more commercial banks also on board. We have the big banks like institutions like EBRD joining because they also see how they can incorporate those startups. So I think this is what changed. Kind of the exclusivity has changed, and all of the banks also, we see the ecosystem is becoming much more cooperative on that side. And the startups are super happy about it because they definitely have to have a chance to test with many other companies. And on startup side, I think on kind of the scouting side, when we said like fintech batch, we also then have to be very specific. So what is fintech? And I think for every batch, we look more into the trends, and I've been giving like a few kind of keynotes, what are the trends we're looking for. But it's important that I think when we look into legal tech, prop tech, that's usually considered fintech. When we put them in the program, they somehow kind of fall a little bit back from the actual like fintechs, like the payment solutions, etc. Yeah. So this is what we've learned, and we're being a bit more careful to make sure that if the startup joins, we have the value proposition for them in the program, and it's not just a program for them. So.
And could you share some details from the scouting process, which is happening right now, right?
Yeah.
So how it is organized in general, and in which markets you're focusing right now for this program, and where do you see the most suitable startups for this program, and why do you think it is so?
I think, well, looking on the startup side, very honestly, European startups are more suitable because they're more aware of the regulation. They do not have to go through so much, let's say, due diligence and KYC. Yeah. So if we take a non-EU startups, they usually need much more introduction and like kind of build up to become a fintech in Europe. For them, we have a pre-acceleration program that's happening now online. So that's one of our ways of scouting. For all non-EU startups, we have an equity-free program where they are joining in. And we try to kind of inform them and make them ready if they come to Europe. We have Bank of Lithuania as mentors, we have Swedbank as mentors. So all of them we're preparing, but of course, we are still focusing on all the geographies that I mentioned before, keeping in mind the situation as it is right now. Yeah. Unfortunately, it seems that most of the companies, or I don't know, fortunately, but it will have to be from Europe or even maybe from Baltics because of the travel restriction and because of the ability to establish the company in Lithuania and get the traveling visa and all these things. And the scouting is a fun process. I would say it's very structured, but also it's never ending. So basically we have people specifically working on scouting. It means that they are always reviewing the inbound applications. We get around 500 or so per batch, which a lot of them is like you can maybe immediately kind of throw away, but then there's a lot of work to be done with the rest. So we have a call with a head of scouting, then it's the call with me, with other partners who start a Wise Guys technical due diligence. So there are a lot of steps. It usually for one startup maybe takes, I don't know, it can take a couple of months. And when it's closer to the program, it can be a bit shorter. So this is one way of scouting. Then myself and other partners were doing like direct scouting, meaning reaching out to communities, reaching out to everyone. So if those who are watching and like a super good hustling founder who is like has a good fintech idea, we want to talk with them all, because sometimes even if we don't invest, we try to help in some other way. And we actually launched an interesting campaign. We did like a kind of a campaign through LinkedIn to reach out to fintechs, and it actually is bringing very good results from Nordics, from Baltics. So yeah, many ways. We say that you can do calls nonstop. It will never end. Like you can just go on and on and on. And I think you can see that in Rockit, that we stay later and later and later.
Yeah. But they also mentioned that because of this global situation, there are some difficulties. So probably this pandemic made all of us to have a plan B. Do you have a plan B if everything again closes down? Or
yeah, we have all the plans from A to Z, how we can do it. But like really honestly, like we have a full online setup ready. We have a hybrid program that we wish actually can happen. We also are thinking of running 2 programs, online and offline, for Baltic and non-Baltic founders. So we have a lot of things in place. The ideal option, of course, would be to get everyone here in one place at least for a few weeks.
And finally, could you share some tips for startups who are maybe listening to us now on what should they focus then, talking about the application process? What sort of criteria they should meet to get admitted, and what do you value the most during the pitches?
Yeah, that's I think the question that's actually kind of it can be like very biased. So I'll just be talking from my side. I think every like investor or manager of accelerator might have different ideas. For me, what I really like is when founders really know how much money they need. So I like talking about it, and what do they need for, and what we can achieve during the program. So when they come to us, we want that they understand the value. We never take companies that they say like, oh yeah, but we don't need accelerators, and probably you can find money elsewhere. And I really believe it, because there is enough money. But if you say like, I really need help with lead generation, I really need help with raising Series A round, I think that's a perfect way to go. And if you can actually name those things, we really invest mainly, we can say you need to be product ready, you need to have revenues. We invest in founders. So you need to be a committed founder, 100% working on the company, and know the things, why you need money, how much you need it for, and what help we can provide you.
Yeah, so you just need to know what you need. Yeah.
Well, you basically really have to be engaged in the idea what you're building. I never call it a project. Like I can understand when people
So I also wanted to ask, are there any no-goes when you hear something?
Yeah, we have a list of some red flags, but like project, okay, it's more of a joke. I would not like throw people out because they call it a project, but then I'm like, do you work somewhere else? Yes, I work somewhere else. Okay, so then we cannot invest. So because if we like put the money in, it means that we believe in your company. You should also believe it as a kind of option A. But yeah, I think a no-goes is sometimes the cap table of the company that is ruined. So also, but that's something we try to help companies to solve. If they come and there are like some angels that have eaten up half of the company, you're in trouble, but we usually try to help in this case. So.
Okay, thank you very much. So startups, you just heard some tips and tricks from the program's director itself. So prepare and register for the program. Application is still open until
end of August, or you should come to Rockit and just ask for my name or name Dmitry, and then we come and we just talk to you.
Yeah, until end of August, and we at Rockit are waiting you here for very much. Thank you, Jonė, and thank you everybody who was listening. Bye.